The massive crystal halls of the Galactic Council trembled with tension as Ambassador Zexthul slammed his four-armed fist against the obsidian table. His reptilian eyes burned with fury as he addressed the assembled representatives from across the galaxy. "The humans have gone too far this time," he hissed, his forked tongue flicking between razor-sharp teeth. "They destroyed our mining operation on Kepler 442b. 40,000 of my people dead in minutes." Counselor Vashta, a towering insectoid from the hive worlds, clicked her mandibles in agreement. "My reconnaissance drones captured the entire assault. 3 human ships, outdated by our standards, somehow penetrated our most advanced defense grid. They moved like ghosts through space itself." The holographic display at the center of the chamber flickered to life, showing grainy footage of sleek human vessels dancing between massive alien battleships. Energy beams that should have vaporized the smaller craft somehow missed their targets entirely. The human ships struck with surgical precision, each shot disabling critical systems before vanishing into the cosmic void. High Chancellor Mordak, an ancient being whose crystalline form had witnessed the rise and fall of a dozen civilizations, spoke with a voice like grinding stone. "The humans claim they were defending a colony world. They say we attacked first. Lies." Zexthul's scales rippled with rage. "We were mining uninhabited asteroids. The humans simply wanted our trilithium deposits. They fabricated evidence of some imaginary colony to justify their piracy. The truth was more complicated, though none in the chamber wanted to acknowledge it. The Galactic Council had expanded aggressively for centuries, claiming resources wherever they found them. When they discovered the rich asteroid belt near Earth's outer rim, they had simply taken what they wanted. The fact that human mining stations already operated in the region was considered irrelevant. Humans were barely a Type 1 civilization on the Kardashev scale after all. What right did they have to claim resources they couldn't even properly utilize? But the human response had been swift and brutal. Their attack ships appeared from nowhere, struck like lightning and disappeared before the Council's massive fleets could respond. Worse still, they had broadcast their assault across subspace networks, ensuring every species in known space witnessed the humiliation. Counselor Ithmar, whose gaseous form shimmered with bioluminescent patterns, floated closer to the table. "The other species are watching. The Andromedan Trade Confederation has already begun questioning our territorial claims. If we appear weak, if we allow these humans to strike us without consequence, our entire authority structure could collapse." The chamber fell silent except for the soft humming of the environmental systems, maintaining atmosphere for dozens of different species. The Galactic Council had ruled through fear and overwhelming military superiority for over 2,000 years. They controlled trade routes, dictated resource allocation, and settled disputes with the implicit threat of orbital bombardment. No single world had ever successfully challenged their authority, until now. High Chancellor Mordak's crystalline form pulsed with deep red light. "We cannot launch a full-scale invasion of Earth. The political ramifications would be severe. Too many species still remember the Zerion genocide. Another planetary bombardment would unite our enemies against us." "Then what do you suggest?" Zexthul's voice dripped with sarcasm. "Send them a strongly worded diplomatic protest?" The Chancellor's form shifted to a cold blue hue. "We send the Shadow Guild." The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop several degrees. Even species that thrived in sub-zero environments felt a chill at those words. The Shadow Guild was the Council's most closely guarded secret, an organization that officially didn't exist. When diplomacy failed and open warfare was politically impossible, the Guild provided a third option. They were the galaxy's most elite assassins, recruited from the deadliest species across known space. Shapeshifters from the Outer Rim who could assume any form. Telepathic hunters from the Vega system who could kill with a thought. Energy beings who could pass through solid matter like ghosts. Each member had survived trials that killed thousands of candidates. For 2 millennia, the Shadow Guild had eliminated problems that threatened Council authority. Rebellious planetary governors found themselves dying in impossible accidents. Trade leaders who challenged Council monopolies suffered mysterious heart failures. Independence movements discovered their leadership vanishing one by one, until only confused, frightened survivors remained. Counselor Vashita's antennae twitched nervously. The Guild has never operated in the Sol system. Human technology is primitive, but their security protocols are unconventional. Our intelligence suggests they employ methods we don't fully understand. Like what? Zexthul scoffed. Kinetic projectile weapons? Chemical explosives? Their entire military operates on principles we abandoned millennia ago. That's precisely what makes them unpredictable, the insectoid replied. Our assassination techniques are designed to overcome energy shields, telepathic defenses, and quantum encryption. But humans rely on physical barriers, biological security measures, and analog communication systems. Our agents might find themselves operating in an environment their training never anticipated. High Chancellor Mordak's form brightened to a brilliant white. The Guild has never failed a mission. They have eliminated targets on planets with gravity 3 times Earth normal, in the radioactive hellscapes of pulsar systems, even in the quantum foam storms of the galactic core. A simple terrestrial world presents no challenge. The decision was made with a formal vote, though the outcome was never in doubt. 12 major species voted in favor, with only 3 abstentions from the more cautious member worlds. Within hours, encrypted subspace messages were racing toward the Shadow Guild's hidden stronghold in the Andromeda Galaxy. The contract was simple: eliminate Earth's entire military and political leadership. Make it look like natural deaths or accidents. Leave no evidence of Council involvement. The human resistance would collapse without coordination, allowing the Council to claim the Sol system's resources while maintaining plausible deniability. As the Council members dispersed to their respective vessels, none noticed the small maintenance drone recording from the chamber's upper reaches. Its sensors captured every word, every vote, every detail of their conspiracy. The data packet was already racing through subspace, toward a seemingly unremarkable communications satellite orbiting a small blue world. In the outer spiral arm, Earth's intelligence networks had learned long ago that the best defense was perfect information. While the Galaxy Council plotted in their crystal halls, human operatives were already preparing their response. The Shadow Guild's fortress existed in a pocket dimension between reality and void, accessible only through quantum gates scattered across the galaxy. Its obsidian walls stretched impossibly high, defying conventional physics as they twisted through dimensions that shouldn't exist. Here, in this place that was not quite a place, the galaxy's deadliest killers gathered to receive their most challenging assignment. Kythera materialized in the briefing chamber, her form shifting from pure energy to solid matter as she settled into a chair designed for her species. As a Vegan phase shifter, she could exist in multiple states simultaneously, making her virtually impossible to detect or contain. Her last target, a rebel leader on Proxima Centauri, had died in his sleep despite being surrounded by energy barriers and armed guards. The autopsy revealed massive brain hemorrhaging, though no weapon or toxin could explain the damage. Across from her, Zexthul crouched on his haunches, his metallic exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber's ethereal lighting. The Andromedian war dancer was the size of a human child, but possessed strength that could crush titanium. His species had evolved on a high-gravity world where survival required perfect balance, lightning reflexes, and the ability to strike faster than neural impulses could react. His curved blades, forged from collapsed star matter, had never failed to find their target. The third member of the team stood motionless near the viewing portal, his humanoid silhouette betraying nothing of his true nature. Morgath appeared to be a tall, thin figure wrapped in shadow, but appearances were deceptive where his species was concerned. The Umbral Collective existed in the spaces between light, feeding on electromagnetic radiation, and manipulating gravitational fields with thought alone. He could walk through walls, become invisible to any sensor, and kill by simply stopping his victim's heart with a focused gravitational pulse. Impressive, a voice echoed through the chamber as their handler materialized. Guildmaster Terminus was old beyond measure, his consciousness inhabiting a mechanical shell after his original body had been destroyed in a failed assassination attempt 3 centuries ago. 3 of our finest operatives. This target must be truly exceptional to warrant such resources. Kythera's form flickered between states as she spoke. The briefing mentioned humans, barely spacefaring, still using chemical rockets for local transport. Why does the Council require our services for such primitives? Terminus activated the holographic display, and the chamber filled with tactical data. Star charts showed the Sol system in detail, with Earth highlighted in pulsing red. Ship movements, communication intercepts, and military assessments scrolled past in streams of alien text. Underestimate humans at your peril, Terminus warned. They have already proven capable of striking Council forces with devastating effectiveness. 3 weeks ago, they destroyed a heavily defended mining operation using only conventional weapons and tactical cunning. The display shifted to show the battle footage from Kepler 442. The three assassins watched in fascination as human ships danced through alien fire with impossible grace. Each movement seemed random, chaotic, yet somehow every shot missed while human return fire struck with surgical precision. Zekthar's mandibles clicked in confusion. Their ships move without pattern. No mathematical model could predict those flight paths. How do they coordinate such maneuvers without quantum communication? That's what makes them dangerous, Terminus replied. They don't follow our tactical models because they never learned them. They developed entirely different approaches to warfare, based on principles we abandoned millennia ago. While we perfected energy weapons and shield technology, they mastered kinetic warfare and stealth. The display zoomed in on Earth itself, showing major population centers and military installations. Your targets are spread across multiple continents. The human command structure is decentralized, with leaders in Washington, Beijing, Moscow, London, and a dozen other cities. Unlike most species, they don't have a single capital or unified government. Morgath's gravitational field rippled with interest. Multiple assassination sites simultaneously? An interesting challenge. What are their defensive capabilities? Primitive by our standards, but effective within their technological parameters. They use physical barriers, chemical detection systems, and biological authentication. No energy shields, no telepathic screening, no quantum encryption. However, their security protocols are exhaustive and seemingly paranoid by galactic standards. The display showed detailed intelligence on human security measures. Underground bunkers with walls meters thick, multiple layers of armed guards, biometric scanners, and mechanical locks. To species accustomed to defeating advanced technology, the human approach seemed almost comically outdated. Kithara studied the data with growing confidence. Phase shifting will bypass their physical barriers easily. Their detection systems cannot perceive electromagnetic fluctuations at the frequencies I operate on. My size and speed will allow me to infiltrate any facility, Zekthar added. Their reflexes are too slow to track movements at my operational velocity. Morgath nodded slowly. Gravitational manipulation will disable their mechanical systems without triggering alerts. Their technology lacks the sophistication to detect dark matter interference. Terminus observed their confidence with something that might have been amusement, if his mechanical form was capable of such expression. You will infiltrate Earth's atmosphere using our latest stealth technology. Each of you will target multiple leadership figures simultaneously. The operation must appear to be natural deaths or accidents. No evidence of alien intervention can remain. The mission parameters were straightforward. Kithara would target the political leadership in North America and Europe, using her phase-shifting abilities to bypass security and cause fatal brain hemorrhages that would mimic strokes. Zekthar would eliminate military commanders across Asia and the Pacific, his blades precise enough to cause heart failures that appeared natural. Morgath would focus on intelligence and scientific leaders, using gravitational manipulation to cause what would appear to be sudden cardiac arrest. Extraction will occur 72 hours after insertion, Terminus continued. A guild stealth ship will maintain position beyond their sensor range. Complete your assignments and signal for retrieval. Questions. Zekthar's antennae twitched. What of human burial customs? Do they perform genetic analysis on their deceased? Primitive chemical autopsies only. Their medical technology cannot detect the cellular damage patterns our methods create. Even their most advanced facilities will find nothing suspicious. The briefing concluded with tactical data downloads directly into their neural implants. Star charts, facility layouts, target profiles, and extraction protocols flooded their consciousness in seconds. Each assassin now possessed more information about Earth's defenses than most human generals. As they prepared to depart, Terminus offered a final warning. Do not allow their primitive technology to make you careless. Humans survived to reach space despite facing extinction events that destroyed more advanced civilizations. They possess something our tactical models cannot quantify. Such as? Kithara asked. Unpredictability. Adaptability. the capacity to find solutions that should not exist. Complete your mission quickly and extract immediately. Do not give them time to surprise you. The three assassins departed through separate quantum gates, each confident in their abilities and dismissive of their handler's caution. They were the Shadow Guild's finest operatives, veterans of 1,000 impossible missions. What could primitive humans possibly do against beings who could phase through matter, move faster than thought, and manipulate the fundamental forces of reality itself? In 12 hours, they would have their answer. 27 miles above the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Sarah Chen stared at her monitoring screens with growing alarm. The orbital detection array she managed for Earth's deep space surveillance network had just registered 3 anomalous readings that defied conventional physics. Contact signatures are moving too fast for meteorites, she muttered, adjusting the quantum resonance filters. Energy patterns don't match any known spacecraft designs. The objects had appeared suddenly at the edge of Earth's magnetosphere, their stealth systems sophisticated enough to fool most sensors. But Dr. Chen's network wasn't most systems. Built with technology reverse-engineered from captured alien artifacts, it could detect distortions in space-time itself. Her fingers flew across holographic keyboards as she initiated deep scan protocols. The readings were disturbing. 3 distinct entities, each exhibiting impossible characteristics. One seemed to phase in and out of dimensional stability. Another moved with accelerations that should have liquefied any biological occupant. The third appeared to be manipulating local gravitational fields. Definitely not human technology, she whispered, reaching for the red phone that connected directly to the Pentagon's Alien Threat Assessment Division. The call was answered before the first ring completed. ATAD Operations, Colonel Martinez speaking. Please state your authorization code. Nightfall 77 Alpha. We have multiple bogies approaching Earth with advanced stealth capabilities. Recommend immediate escalation to Omega protocols. There was a pause that lasted exactly 3 seconds. Dr. Chen, are you certain these aren't false positives? The Senate hearing on defense spending is tomorrow. If we trigger Omega protocols unnecessarily, Colonel, I've been tracking alien incursions for 8 years. These signatures are unlike anything in our database. They're not here for diplomacy. Another pause. Omega protocols are now active. Estimated time to atmospheric entry? Dr. Chen checked her calculations. 47 minutes at current velocity. Sir, there's something else. The approach vector suggests they're targeting multiple continents simultaneously. This isn't a reconnaissance mission. Understood. Stand by for priority override on all surveillance networks. And Dr. Chen? Good catch. The line went dead and Sarah leaned back in her chair with a mixture of satisfaction and terror. Omega protocols meant every government on Earth would receive immediate notification of an alien threat. Emergency bunkers would seal. Military forces would mobilize. And somewhere in the shadows, humanity's most classified defense systems would activate. 3,000 miles away, in a nondescript office building in downtown Denver, a man who officially didn't exist received an encrypted message on a device that wasn't supposed to work. Jason Kurata appeared to be nothing more than a mid-level insurance adjuster, complete with coffee-stained shirts and a cubicle decorated with family photos. The reality was considerably more complex. Jason read the message twice, memorizing every detail before the quantum encryption dissolved the text. 3 alien assassins, species unknown, targeting Earth's leadership. Estimated arrival in 43 minutes. All conventional security compromised. He smiled grimly as he opened his desk drawer. Hidden beneath insurance forms and actuarial tables was a device that looked like an ordinary smartphone. His thumb pressed against the biometric scanner, and the screen displayed a single option: activate. Jason Kurata had been born in a small town in Oregon to parents who ran a martial arts dojo. By age 12, he could move through a forest without disturbing a single leaf. By 16, he was competing in underground fighting tournaments where broken bones were considered minor injuries. By 20, he had attracted the attention of military recruiters who specialized in finding impossible people for impossible missions. The official record stated that Staff Sergeant Jason Kurata died in a training accident at Fort Bragg in 2019. The classified truth was that he had been recruited into a program so secret it lacked an official name. The operator simply called it the Company, and its existence was known to fewer than 30 people worldwide. The company's mission was simple: prepare for threats that conventional military forces couldn't handle. While the public military trained for wars against human enemies, the company prepared for wars against aliens, time travelers, interdimensional invaders, and beings that defied classification entirely. Their operatives were recruited from martial artists, special forces veterans, and individuals who had demonstrated abilities that couldn't be explained by conventional science. Jason's specialty was something his instructors had called probability manipulation, though he preferred simpler terms. He was lucky. Not lottery-winning lucky, but battlefield lucky. Bullets missed him by inches. Explosions threw him clear instead of vaporizing him. Enemy soldiers looked the wrong direction at crucial moments. Scientific analysis suggested he somehow influenced quantum probability fields through methods that violated known physics. More importantly, he had trained extensively in techniques specifically designed to counter superhuman opponents. The company had access to alien technology, captured specimens, and classified research data spanning decades. Their operatives learned to fight enemies who could phase through matter, move faster than sound, or manipulate fundamental forces. Jason closed his eyes and entered the meditative state his grandmother had taught him as a child. His breathing slowed. His heartbeat became steady and rhythmic. The chaotic noise of the office faded until only silence remained. In this state, he could sense disturbances in what he thought of as the flow of reality. Grandfather Kurata had called it ki. Military scientists labeled it quantum field manipulation. Jason just knew that when he focused properly, he could feel wrongness approaching, and right now, wrongness was descending through Earth's atmosphere at incredible speed. He opened his eyes and began typing a message on his encrypted device. The words appeared briefly on the screen before vanishing into quantum static. 3 incoming. Confirmed hostile. Standard countermeasures insufficient. Requesting permission to engage using Protocol 7 assets. The response came within seconds. Permission granted. Terminate with extreme prejudice. No survivors. No evidence. Jason smiled as he began gathering his equipment. Hidden throughout his cubicle were tools that would have mystified conventional investigators. Throwing stars forged from meteorite metal, smoke pellets that created quantum interference patterns, monofilament wire that could cut through any known material, body armor woven from carbon nanotubes and exotic matter. But his most important tool was knowledge. The company had spent decades studying alien psychology, physiology, and tactical doctrine. They knew how various species thought, how they fought, and most importantly, how they could be killed. The 3 assassins approaching Earth were supremely confident in their abilities, as well they should be. They represented the pinnacle of their respective species' evolution. Against conventional human military forces, they would be unstoppable. But Jason Kurata wasn't conventional. He was something the galaxy had never encountered before. A human warrior specifically trained to hunt beings that considered themselves apex predators. As he left his office for what might be the last time, Jason reflected on the irony of the situation. The Galactic Council had sent their finest assassins to eliminate Earth's leadership. Instead, they had delivered themselves to a hunter who had spent his entire life preparing for exactly this moment. The game was about to begin, and for the first time in millennia, the Shadow Guild's operatives were walking into a trap they couldn't even recognize. Jason checked his watch. 26 minutes until the aliens reached the surface. Just enough time to reach the first intercept point and prepare a welcome they would never forget. Kithara materialized in the shadows beneath the White House's north portico, her energy form stabilizing into something resembling solid matter. The transition from orbital insertion to surface infiltration had been flawless. Earth's primitive sensors had detected nothing as she phased through the atmosphere like a ghost made of starlight. The human structure before her was laughably vulnerable. Stone and steel barriers that couldn't stop a determined child, much less a being capable of existing in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. She studied the building's layout through electromagnetic scanning, mapping every room, every corridor, every potential threat. Pathetic, she whispered in the Vegan tongue, her voice creating harmonic frequencies that existed partially outside normal space-time. Their leaders shelter behind barriers I could phase through while sleeping. Her first target was inside the building's upper levels, the human leader they called President Harrison. Intelligence reports indicated he would be in the residential quarters at this hour, protected by nothing more than armed guards and mechanical sensors. Kithara had assassinated emperors on worlds where gravity could crush mountains, in palaces defended by energy beings that existed as pure thought. One primitive human in a stone building presented no challenge whatsoever. She began her approach, shifting between energy and matter as she moved. Guards walked past her position without the slightest awareness of her presence. Their optical sensors couldn't perceive electromagnetic signatures outside their narrow biological spectrum. Their weapons were kinetic projectiles that would pass harmlessly through her energy form. The first hint something was wrong came when she attempted to phase through the building's outer wall. Instead of sliding effortlessly between atoms, she felt resistance. Not the crushing barrier of an energy shield, but something more subtle. The very structure of space seemed slightly off, as if the building existed in a pocket of altered reality. Kithara paused, extending her senses to analyze the anomaly. The walls appeared normal to conventional observation, but quantum scanning revealed microscopic lattices woven throughout the building materials. The patterns were impossibly complex, creating interference fields that disrupted dimensional transitions. "Interesting," she murmured. "The humans have learned to manipulate quantum architecture. Perhaps they're not quite as primitive as reported." She adjusted her phase-shifting frequency, finding gaps in the interference pattern. The process required more concentration than usual, but she had overcome far greater challenges. Within minutes, she was moving through the building's interior, ascending toward her target's location. The corridors were filled with human guards carrying kinetic weapons. They moved in patrol patterns that seemed random, but revealed careful coordination upon closer study. Their equipment included devices she didn't recognize, instruments that generated low-level electromagnetic fields and patterns that suggested they were searching for something specific. They're scanning for dimensional disturbances, she realized with growing respect. Someone has taught them to hunt phase shifters. The revelation was concerning but not alarming. Human technology was centuries behind Galactic Council standards. Their detection methods might notice her presence, but they lacked weapons capable of harming a being existing partially outside normal space-time. She reached the residential level and located her target's chambers. President Harrison was inside, protected by 3 guards and what appeared to be a simple mechanical lock. Kithara smiled as she began shifting to her energy form, preparing to phase through the door and end the human leader's life with a focused electromagnetic pulse to his brainstem. The moment she began the transition, every alarm in the building activated simultaneously. Red lights bathed the corridors in crimson illumination. Sirens wailed with frequencies that seemed designed to disrupt her concentration. Emergency blast doors slammed shut throughout the structure, and she felt the building's quantum interference fields intensify dramatically. "Impossible," she hissed. "They cannot have detected me so quickly." Her answer came from directly behind her. "Actually, we detected you before you even entered orbit." Kithara spun around, her form crackling with energy as she prepared to strike. A human male stood in the corridor, apparently having materialized from nowhere. He was average height for his species, wearing dark clothing that seemed to absorb light. Most disturbing was his complete lack of fear. Humans were supposed to be terrified of beings like her. "I am Kithara of the Vegan Collective," she declared, her voice resonating across multiple dimensional frequencies. "I am death incarnate, destruction given form. Your primitive mind cannot comprehend what I am capable of." The human smiled. "Jason Kurata, and I'm here to send you home in pieces." Before she could respond, he moved. Kithara had fought beings that could cross continents in seconds, warriors whose reflexes operated at near light speed. But this human's movement was different, not faster but perfectly timed. He seemed to know exactly when and where she would phase shift. Positioning himself to intercept her dimensional transitions, she flickered into energy form, attempting to pass through him and strike at his biological systems. Instead, she found herself materializing directly into the path of a throwing star forged from some unknown metal. The projectile should have passed harmlessly through her energy state, but instead it disrupted her cohesion and forced her back into solid form. "Meteorite iron with quantum-enhanced crystalline structure," Jason explained casually as he drew 2 more stars, specifically designed to disrupt exotic matter states. We've been studying your species for longer than you might think. Cathera snarled and launched herself at him, her claws extending into monomolecular cutting edges that could slice through starship hulls. Jason simply wasn't there when she arrived. He had moved again with that impossible timing, as if he could predict her actions before she made them. You're reading my dimensional fluctuations, she realized. But that's impossible. Humans lack the neural architecture for quantum perception. True, Jason agreed, appearing beside her with a device that looked like a modified tablet computer. But we're really good at building machines that can do things we can't. The device activated, and Cathara felt her phase-shifting abilities suddenly constrained. The quantum interference field it generated was crude compared to Galactic Council technology, but it was specifically calibrated to disrupt Vegan energy manipulation. She was trapped in solid form, vulnerable for the first time in centuries. The Shadow Guild has a reputation, Jason continued, circling her like a predator stalking wounded prey. 3 assassinations this year, 17 last year, dozens more over the past century. Always the same pattern, phase shift into secure facilities, kill the target with untraceable electromagnetic damage, vanish without evidence. Cathara lunged at him with desperate fury, but her movements were clumsy without access to her dimensional abilities. Jason deflected her attacks with techniques that seemed to blend multiple martial art styles into something entirely new. Each strike she attempted was turned aside, redirected, or used against her. The thing about patterns, he said as he wrapped monofilament wire around her limbs, is that they make you predictable. We've been tracking Shadow Guild operations for decades, studying your methods, developing countermeasures. The wire began to tighten, its quantum-enhanced structure cutting through her exotic matter composition like normal cable through flesh. Cathara felt genuine fear for the first time in millennia. This is impossible, she gasped. You're barely a Type 1 civilization. You shouldn't possess technology capable of harming me. Jason smiled grimly as he attached an explosive device to the wire binding her. You're right. We don't have that technology. But we're very good at improvising with what we can steal, reverse engineer or jury-rig from alien artifacts. The device activated with a soft chime. Cathara felt her molecular cohesion beginning to destabilize. Give the Galactic Council a message, Jason said as he stepped back. Earth is under human protection. Next time send better assassins. The explosion was small but perfectly focused, disrupting Cathara's exotic matter matrix at the quantum level. She dissolved into constituent particles that scattered across multiple dimensions, her consciousness fragmenting into quantum static that would never reassemble. Jason collected the monofilament wire and his other equipment, leaving no evidence of the encounter except for a slight scorch mark on the corridor floor. Security teams would find nothing suspicious, just another false alarm caused by atmospheric interference. 2 down, 1 to go. He checked his tactical display and frowned. Zekthar was already moving toward his target, and Morgath had vanished from sensors entirely. The night was far from over. Zekthar landed soundlessly on the roof of the Pentagon, his metallic exoskeleton absorbing the impact like liquid mercury. The Andromedean war dancer crouched motionless for 17 seconds, analyzing air currents, electromagnetic signatures, and gravitational fluctuations that might indicate detection systems. Nothing. The human's sensors remained oblivious to his presence. He smiled, mandibles clicking with satisfaction. The building beneath him housed Earth's primary military leadership, including his 3 assigned targets, General Morrison, Admiral Chen, and Colonel Vasquez. All 3 would die within the next hour, their hearts stopped by precision strikes faster than human neurons could register pain. Zekthar's species had evolved on Kepler 762c, a world where gravity was 3 times Earth normal, and predators moved with velocities that challenged the speed of sound. Survival required reflexes measured in microseconds and the ability to strike 17 times before most creatures could complete a single defensive action. He had been trained since birth in the war dance, a combat art that transformed killing into poetry written in motion, too fast for most beings to perceive. The Pentagon's defenses were impressive by human standards. Multiple security perimeters, armed guards, motion sensors, and thermal imaging systems. But they were designed to detect threats moving at normal speeds, following predictable paths. Zekthar could cross the building's length in less than 3 seconds. leaving no trace of his passage except for the bodies of his targets. He began his descent through the building's ventilation system, his compact form flowing through ducts barely large enough for a human child. The war dance included techniques for moving through confined spaces without creating sound or vibration. He became liquid metal flowing downward, guided by memorized blueprints and electromagnetic signatures that revealed the location of every human in the structure. General Morrison was in his office on the 4th floor, working late on strategic assessments. Admiral Chen had remained in the command center, monitoring global fleet positions. Colonel Vasquez was conducting a briefing in conference room C7. 3 targets, 3 different locations, all heavily guarded. For any normal assassin, the mission would require careful planning and sequential strikes. Zekthar would kill all 3 simultaneously. He emerged from the ventilation system in a maintenance corridor, his form solidifying from liquid metal back into his natural configuration. Standing barely 4 feet tall, he resembled a metallic child wearing armor crafted from mirror-bright steel. The appearance was deceptive. His exoskeleton could deflect energy weapons, his reflexes operated faster than human perception, and his curved blades had never failed to penetrate any material. The war dance began. Zekthar moved through the Pentagon like a ghost made of quicksilver. Guards turned their heads to track motion that had already passed. Security cameras recorded empty corridors as he flowed between their scanning patterns. Motion sensors remained silent as he became one with the building's natural vibrations. General Morrison's office was protected by 2 guards with military-grade rifles. They stood at attention outside the door, alert and professional. Neither saw Zekthar approach. One moment they were alone in the corridor. The next moment he was between them, striking twice with surgical precision. Both soldiers collapsed unconsciously, their nervous systems disrupted by perfectly placed pressure point attacks. Zekthar flowed through the office door like liquid mercury, solidifying behind General Morrison's desk. The general was studying tactical displays, unaware that death had entered his sanctuary. A single strike to the heart would appear to be sudden cardiac arrest. Quick, clean, undetectable. The attack never connected. General Morrison spun in his chair and caught Zekthar's wrist with reflexes that shouldn't have been possible for a human. The war dancer's blade stopped inches from its target, trapped in a grip stronger than titanium. "Evening," Morrison said calmly. "You must be our Andromedean guest." Zekthar stared in shock. No being had ever intercepted his opening strike. The war dance moved faster than neural transmission, yet this human had reacted as if he possessed precognitive abilities. "Impossible," Zekthar hissed, his secondary arms extending additional blades. "Human reflexes cannot match Andromedean combat speed." Morrison smiled grimly, his grip never loosening. "You're right, but human technology can." The general's eyes flickered with an inner light that Zekthar suddenly recognized as artificial enhancement, neural implants. The humans had augmented their biological limitations with cybernetic systems. "Predictive combat algorithms," Morrison explained, twisting Zekthar's arm with mechanical precision. "We analyzed decades of Shadow Guild assassination footage, identified movement patterns, and created software that can anticipate your attacks before you make them." Zekthar triggered his emergency enhancement protocols, flooding his system with combat stimulants that tripled his already superhuman speed. He became a blur of metallic motion, striking from 17 different angles simultaneously. Each attack should have been impossible to block. Morrison blocked them all. The general moved with inhuman fluidity, his augmented nervous system processing information faster than biological neurons ever could. Where Zekthar relied on natural speed, Morrison combined human tactical thinking with machine reflexes. It was like watching a master chess player who could move pieces at the speed of light. "Your species fights beautifully," Morrison said, as he deflected a strike aimed at his throat. "Pure instinct, perfect coordination, absolute commitment to the attack. But you're predictable because you're perfect." Zekthar snarled and activated his exoskeleton's emergency systems. His metallic shell began generating electromagnetic interference designed to disrupt electronic systems. Morrison's implants should have failed instantly. Instead, the general laughed. "Hardened military-grade cybernetics," he explained, landing a punch that dented Zekthar's exoskeleton. "Designed to operate in nuclear electromagnetic pulse environments. Your interference is annoying, but not disabling. The war dancer found himself being forced backwards by an opponent who shouldn't exist. Humans were slow, weak, dependent on tools and technology. They weren't supposed to be capable of matching Andromedan warriors in single combat. Morrison pressed his advantage, his movements becoming more aggressive. Where Zekthar flowed like quicksilver, the general struck like a pneumatic hammer. His augmented strength allowed him to match the war dancer's power, while his predictive systems countered every technique in the Andromedan arsenal. "The thing about your war dance," Morrison said as he trapped Zekthar in a submission hold, "is that it's an art form. Beautiful, elegant, perfect. But art follows rules, and rules can be analyzed." Zekthar felt his exoskeleton beginning to crack under the pressure of Morrison's grip. His combat stimulants were burning out, leaving him weak and disoriented. For the first time in his centuries of existence, he was losing a fair fight. "How?" he gasped. Morrison's expression grew somber. "Because humans don't fight fair. We cheat, we adapt, we turn our weaknesses into advantages. You came here expecting to face primitives. Instead, you found a species that's been preparing for this exact scenario for decades." The submission hold tightened, and Zekthar felt his spinal column beginning to compress. His vision darkened as his oxygen supply was cut off. "Admiral Chen and Colonel Vasquez are receiving similar welcomes," Morrison continued. "We identified all three of you before you reached the building. This entire facility has been evacuated except for our enhanced security teams." Zekthar made one final desperate attempt to break free, channeling every remaining ounce of his strength into a technique that should have shattered Morrison's augmented skeleton. The general absorbed the impact without flinching. "The Galactic Council made a mistake," Morrison said as he applied the final pressure. "They sent assassins to eliminate our leadership. Instead, they gave us the opportunity to field test our countermeasures against the galaxy's finest killers." Zekthar's exoskeleton collapsed with a sound like breaking crystal. His consciousness faded as his enhanced physiology finally succumbed to damage that would have killed most beings. Instantly, Morrison released the war dancer's lifeless form and activated his communication implant. Target neutralized. Proceeding to assist with the remaining threat, he looked down at Zekthar's body with something approaching respect. The Andromedian had been magnificent in his own way, a perfect killing machine shaped by millions of years of evolution. But perfection was also limitation. When every movement followed optimal patterns, those patterns could be predicted and countered. Humans, with all their flaws and weaknesses, had learned long ago that survival sometimes required abandoning perfection in favor of adaptability. They might not be the fastest, strongest, or most elegant species in the galaxy, but they were very good at finding ways to win fights they shouldn't be able to survive. Morrison checked his tactical display. 2 down, 1 to go. Somewhere in the building, Morgath was learning the same lesson that had just killed his colleagues. The Shadow Guild's perfect assassins had finally encountered prey that fought back. Morgath existed in the spaces between photons, a living shadow that moved through the Pentagon's lower levels like darkness given purpose. The Umbral Collective had evolved in the lightless depths between galaxies, feeding on cosmic radiation and manipulating gravitational fields with the same ease that humans breathed oxygen. He was death incarnate, a being that could walk through solid matter, become invisible to any sensor, and kill simply by stopping his victim's heart with focused gravitational pressure. In 3,000 years of existence, he had never failed an assassination. Planets had fallen because of his actions. Empires had crumbled when their leaders mysteriously died of apparent heart failure. Tonight, he would add Earth's intelligence leadership to his list of accomplishments. His target was Dr. Elena Vasquez, director of the Pentagon's Advanced Threat Assessment Division. Intelligence reports indicated she was the architect of Earth's defensive strategies against alien incursion. With her death, human resistance coordination would collapse, leaving them vulnerable to follow-up operations. Morgath moved through the building's foundation levels, existing partially outside normal spacetime as he searched for his quarry. Gravitational sensors revealed the location of every human in the structure, their heartbeats creating distinctive resonance patterns in the local spacetime fabric. Dr. Vasquez was 3 levels down, in a heavily shielded conference room surrounded by what appeared to be the building's most sophisticated security measures. Energy barriers that could stop particle beams, quantum encryption locks, and atmospheric filters designed to detect exotic matter. Impressive, but useless against a being that existed primarily in higher dimensional space. He began his descent, phasing through steel and concrete as if they were mere suggestions. The Pentagon's builders had constructed their fortress to withstand conventional attacks, nuclear strikes, and electromagnetic warfare. They had never imagined a threat that could ignore the fundamental forces holding matter together. The security perimeter around Dr. Vasquez's location grew more intense as Morgath approached. Motion sensors that could detect quantum fluctuations, gravitational field monitors, and devices that generated interference patterns in exotic matter frequency ranges. The humans had clearly learned something about the various species that might threaten them, but they had learned incorrectly. Morgath smiled as he analyzed their countermeasures. The detection systems were calibrated for beings that existed partially in normal space-time. The Umbral Collective operated in dimensions that intersected reality only at specific quantum junction points. Their sensors were looking in the wrong places entirely. He reached the final barrier and paused to study the conference room beyond. Dr. Vasquez sat alone at a circular table, reviewing holographic displays that showed tactical data from around the globe. She appeared to be monitoring the other assassination attempts in real time, watching as her colleagues dealt with threats she couldn't possibly understand. Morgath extended his consciousness into the room's gravitational field, preparing to crush her heart with a focused pulse of dark matter manipulation. The technique was undetectable, untraceable, and would appear to be nothing more than sudden cardiac arrest. Another perfect assassination to add to his record. The moment he began focusing gravitational energy, every light in the conference room went out. Not darkness, but the complete absence of photons. Morgath found himself in a null space void that absorbed electromagnetic radiation across all spectrums. For the first time in millennia, he was truly blind. "Welcome to Earth," a voice said from the darkness. "I'm Dr. Elena Vasquez, and I've been waiting for you." Morgath attempted to retreat into higher dimensional space, but found his movement constrained by fields he didn't recognize. The conference room had become a prison specifically designed to trap beings like him. "Impossible," he whispered, his voice creating gravitational ripples in the dark matter substrate. "Your species lacks the technology to manipulate exotic dimensional barriers." "True," Dr. Vasquez replied. Her voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, suggesting she was using some form of spatial distortion communication. "But we're very good at learning from our mistakes." Light returned to the room gradually, revealing that everything had changed. The walls now displayed energy patterns that hurt Morgath's consciousness to observe directly. The air itself had become thick with quantum interference that disrupted his ability to phase between dimensions. Dr. Vasquez stood in the center of the room, wearing what appeared to be a suit of armor crafted from crystallized dark matter. The impossible material should not have been able to exist in normal spacetime. Yet there it was, providing her with protection against gravitational manipulation. 5 years ago, one of your colleagues killed my predecessor, she explained, her voice distorted by the exotic matter surrounding her. Director Thompson, apparent heart failure, no sign of external cause. We spent 2 years figuring out how it was done. Morgath attempted to crush her with overwhelming gravitational force, channeling enough dark matter energy to collapse a small moon. The attack struck her armor and dissipated harmlessly, absorbed by the crystallized exotic matter. Compressed dark matter harvested from a captured Shadow Guild operative. She continued conversationally. It took us 3 years to figure out how to stabilize it, but the result is complete immunity to gravitational manipulation. The Umbral assassin found himself trapped in a pocket of space-time that refused to obey the rules he understood. His dimensional phasing abilities were constrained by interference fields. His gravitational powers were useless against her protection. For the first time in 3,000 years, Morgath was fighting an opponent who could match his abilities. "How did you capture one of us?" he demanded. Dr. Vasquez smiled grimly. "We didn't. But your people aren't the only species in the galaxy with exotic matter technology. The Andromedans were happy to trade information about Shadow Guild operations in exchange for certain strategic considerations." The revelation struck Morgath like a physical blow. The Galactic Council's member species were providing intelligence to humans, undermining Shadow Guild operations for their own political advantage. "You're lying," he snarled, launching himself at her with claws extended into monomolecular cutting edges. Dr. Vasquez didn't move. She didn't need to. The moment Morgath made contact with her armor, his exotic matter composition began destabilizing. The crystallized dark matter was configured to disrupt umbral physiology at the quantum level. "We've been studying you for years," she said as Morgath collapsed, his shadow form flickering between dimensions uncontrollably. "Every assassination, every technique, every weakness in your species' exotic matter biology." Morgath felt his consciousness fragmenting as his connection to higher dimensional space was severed. He was dying, but death for an umbral was different than for most species. His awareness would scatter across multiple realities, experiencing dissolution from 17 different perspectives simultaneously. "Tell me something," Dr. Vasquez said as she activated a containment field around his dissolving form. "Did the Galactic Council really think they could send 3 assassins to eliminate Earth's leadership without consequences?" You cannot have killed the others," Morgath gasped. "Kithara and Zekthar are perfect killers. No human could defeat them." Dr. Vasquez smiled coldly. "Check your tactical network." Morgath extended his fading consciousness toward the quantum communication links that connected all Shadow Guild operatives. The network was silent. 2 signals that should have been broadcasting mission status updates had gone dark. "Impossible," he whispered. "The Galactic Council made a fundamental error," Dr. Vasquez explained as Morgath's form continued dissolving. "They assumed humanity would react to alien threats the same way other species do. Fear, panic, submission. Instead, we did what humans do best, which is, we learned. We adapted. We prepared." She gestured toward the exotic matter containment field that was slowly absorbing his dissolving consciousness. "This facility has been specifically designed to capture and study beings like you. Your death will provide us with enough data to develop countermeasures against the entire umbral species. More." Gath felt his awareness scattering across dimensions as his exotic matter matrix finally collapsed completely. His last coherent thought was a warning he would never be able to deliver. The humans were not the primitive species the Galactic Council believed them to be. They were something far more dangerous. Hunters who had learned to hunt the hunters. The crystalline halls of the Galactic Council trembled with something that might have been fear, as High Chancellor Mordak studied the transmission that had arrived from the Sol system. The quantum-encrypted message bore the Shadow Guild's authentication codes, but its contents defied all logical explanation. Mission status: complete failure. All operatives terminated. Assets compromised. Immediate extraction impossible. Ambassador Zexthal's scales rippled with agitation as he read the report for the 7th time. This cannot be accurate. The Shadow Guild has never failed a mission. Their operatives are the finest assassins in known space. Perhaps the data was corrupted during transmission, suggested Counselor Vashita, her mandibles clicking nervously. Quantum interference from the Sol system's solar radiation could have altered the message. High Chancellor Mordak's crystalline form pulsed with deep red light. "The authentication codes are genuine. The quantum encryption is intact. The message is accurate." A heavy silence fell over the chamber as the implications sank in. 3 of the Shadow Guild's most elite operatives had been sent to eliminate primitive human leadership. Instead, all 3 had been killed by the very targets they were supposed to assassinate. The silence was broken by an incoming transmission alert. Every council member turned toward the main display as a new message materialized in the chamber's center. The transmission bore Earth's official diplomatic codes, though no human had ever been granted access to Galactic Council communication networks. "Greetings to the Galactic Council," the message began, spoken in perfect galactic standard by a human female. "I am Dr. Elena Vasquez, Director of Earth's Alien Threat Assessment Division. I believe you recently sent us some visitors." The holographic display showed a human conference room where Dr. Vasquez sat behind a table displaying 3 containment units. Each unit held recognizable remains: Kithara's destabilized energy matrix, Zekthar's crushed exoskeleton, and Morgath's dissolved exotic matter. "We want to thank the Galactic Council for this opportunity to field test our defensive capabilities," Dr. Vasquez continued with a smile that somehow managed to be both polite and predatory. "Your assassins provided valuable data on Shadow Guild techniques and vulnerabilities." Ambassador Zexthal's claws extended involuntarily. "She's displaying our operatives like trophies. The arrogance is beyond comprehension." "We've learned a great deal from studying these specimens," the human continued. "Vegan phase-shifting technology, Andromedian metallurgy, umbral gravitational manipulation. Fascinating species. We look forward to meeting more of them under similar circumstances. High Chancellor Mordak's form shifted to an angry orange hue. They're threatening us. A barely spacefaring civilization is making threats against the Galactic Council. The transmission wasn't finished. Dr. Vasquez leaned forward, her expression growing serious. We understand that the Council operates on the principle that might makes right. That advanced species have the authority to take whatever they want from less developed worlds. We're here to inform you that policy no longer applies to Earth. The display changed to show tactical data that should have been impossible for humans to possess. Fleet movements throughout Council space. Defensive positions around major worlds. Communication intercepts from classified military channels. We've been watching you for quite some time, Dr. Vasquez explained. Your mining operation in our asteroid belt wasn't the first Council incursion into human space. It was simply the first one we decided to respond to publicly. Councillor Ithmar's gaseous form shimmered with alarm. How do they have access to classified military intelligence? Your information security is less secure than you might believe, the human continued as if she had heard the question. When you've been stealing our resources for decades, it's only reasonable that we would steal some of yours in return. The tactical display expanded to show detailed schematics of Council warships, including specifications that were classified at the highest levels. Weapon capabilities, shield frequencies, engine designs, and most disturbing of all, the locations of every major military installation in Council space. We want to propose a new relationship between Earth and the Galactic Council, Dr. Vasquez said, one based on mutual respect rather than colonial exploitation. We have resources you need. You have technology we find interesting. Perhaps we can find ways to benefit each other. Ambassador Zexthal slammed his fist against the table. They cannot be serious. They're demanding equal treatment from civilizations millions of years more advanced than their primitive world. Alternatively, the human continued, you can continue your current policy of taking what you want from our space. But understand that the cost of doing so has changed dramatically. The display shifted to show footage that made every Council member freeze in horror. Human ships, clearly constructed with reverse-engineered alien technology, emerging from stealth fields that should have been impossible to penetrate. The vessels moved with impossible grace, their weapons striking with precision that exceeded Council military standards. These are our new defensive platforms, Dr. Vasquez explained, built using technology we've acquired from various sources over the past several decades. Each ship is crewed by humans who have been specifically trained to fight alien opponents using techniques you've never encountered. The footage showed human warriors moving through alien environments with equipment that combined primitive Earth technology with advanced galactic science. They fought like beings possessed, adapting instantly to conditions that should have been lethal, overcoming opponents who should have been unstoppable. We call them our alien response teams, the human said with obvious pride. Each operative has spent years training to combat specific alien species using methods designed to exploit weaknesses in your evolutionary psychology. High Chancellor Mordak's form had shifted to a pale blue that indicated deep concern. They've weaponized human unpredictability. They're using our own tactical assumptions against us. The choice is yours, Dr. Vasquez concluded. Peaceful coexistence with a species that has proven capable of defending itself, or continued hostility with beings who have demonstrated they can kill your finest operatives and steal your most advanced technology. The transmission ended, leaving the Council chamber in stunned silence. Councillor Vashida was the first to speak. They've created an entire military force specifically designed to fight us. How is this possible? Because we underestimated them, Mordak replied grimly. We saw primitive technology and assumed primitive thinking. Instead, we found a species that had been preparing for this confrontation for generations. What do we do? Zexthal demanded. We cannot allow this precedent to stand. If other species learn that humans successfully defied Council authority, then we'll face rebellions across the entire galaxy. Ithmar finished. Our authority depends on the perception that resistance is impossible. High Chancellor Mordak studied the tactical data the humans had transmitted, analyzing threat assessments and strategic implications. The choice before them was stark. Acknowledge Earth as an equal partner or risk a war against a species that had demonstrated the ability to turn the Council's own advantages against them. Schedule a diplomatic mission to Earth, he decided finally. We'll negotiate a formal treaty recognizing human sovereignty over the Sol system. You cannot be serious, Zexthul protested. They're primitives. No, Mordak replied, his crystalline form pulsing with resigned acceptance. There's something far more dangerous. They're humans who learned to hunt the things that hunt them. The Galactic Council had ruled through fear and superior technology for millennia, but fear was a weapon that cut both ways, and the humans had just taught the galaxy's most powerful civilization what it felt like to be afraid. 3 dead assassins had delivered a message more effective than any diplomatic protest. Earth was no longer prey. The age of human submission was over, and the galaxy would never be the same.